Sicha of Shabbos Vayeira Chai Mar Cheshvan Tavshin Nun Beis 1991-92. You do what's known. Shenoisiv Lakach Shekol Inyone Reb Shimon just starting. So it's known. Lakach Shekol Inyone Torah Hemeira Torah Milashon Heira. Everything that happens in Torah is a lesson, meaning we're supposed to learn something from it, because the word Torah is from the word Heira as a guide or a lesson. The kol echad v'echad misraf, every person, like we've learned before, but kol makomis, wherever you are, b'chol zmanim, at all times. Obviously, this is an idea that the Rebbe talked about a lot. Yesh hadgashim yuchedes. There's a point. Al limit v'hayra minyane atayra shebeparshas hashavua. It's also important not just to learn a lesson from everything you open up in a sefer. You learn some Torah. You're supposed to bring home, so to say, personalize the message, but also specifically the parsha. That is for this time. So if you learn the Parsha for the week, we have the clear teaching of the Alter Rebbe and Daf Levin the Tzeit. You have to live with the time. And the lesson you take specifically for the time of the year that you read that Parsha is supposed to give you guidance throughout the year, not just for that week. But it's specifically in that week you take the energy for the rest of the year.
Well, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's Gaza going on right now.
The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah is a destruction of organized cruelty. So,
well, that's what Hamas is.
Yep, absolutely. So, of course, it's not that. The Rebbe, I think, is in a focus on another point. So the Rebbe says like this: Zois v'oid, kiven shekol inyan Torah hem b'tachas hadiyuk. And even more than that, because everything in Torah is exact, Mistaber Lower makes sense. We'll actually learn about that on Sunday night for the Torah Orshir. Shenoisiv ala shaychas haklos the Parshas hashavua lizman zeh. Yesh kam limit v'hayra mehakvius diyem haShabbos shebay koyim b'tzibur Parshas hashavua kula b'mei chodesh. That besides for the general lesson we have for the Parsha, we also have the time of the month that it's being read. Sometimes the Parsha is read in this part of the month, this day, that day. So we have to take a lesson to combine also not just the time of the year, but specifically with the time of the month. Obviously, the Rebbe is leading up to something. So what am I talking about this week? First, we have to learn a lesson of Parshas Vayeira because that's the Parsha of the week. And also to take a lesson from Parshas Vayeira when it falls out on the 18th of Mar Cheshvan. So this year we actually fall out on the 20th of Mar Cheshvan, which is the birthday of the Rebbe Rashab. But that year it fell out on the 18th of Mar Cheshvan, which is today, meaning Thursday. Aside for the idea itself of, I guess, the idea of Chai, which is Chai is obviously an important day. The Rebbe says, so even though Chai itself is in its own a unique day, the Chai of every week, or the Chayis of the month, so to say, like we say, Chai Elul gives Chayis to Elul, so Chai Mar Cheshvan gives life, vitality to Mar Cheshvan, but this also falls out within the 3 days, which is a unit of time, like we know with Havdalah, etc., of the 20th of Mar Cheshvan. And what is the 20th of Mar Cheshvan? Again, this year actually Shabbos falls out on the 20th of Mar Cheshvan. Is Yom HaYoledes Shel Kol Kedosh Admei Mar Rashav and Nishmasei Din Ketel Kamon. It is the birthday of the Rebbe Rashav, the 5th Rebbe Chabad, Reb Shalom Dov Ber, the founder of Tomchei Temimim of the Chabad Yeshivas, father of the previous Rebbe, the grandfather of the Rebbe's wife, the Rebbetzin. Ubehegdim. Hasipur HaYedua. This is the known story that the Rebbe would tell almost every year around his birthday, because his birthday always fell out around Parshas Vayeira. Is Oidis Balye Miledis Lachaf Machaj Meshachas the Parshas Vayeira. The known story that's connected to Parshas Vayeira with the birthday boy, the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe always says this. It's interesting that they never figured out exactly the age that this story happened. Either he was turning 4 or he was turning 5. We know we couldn't be past that, because past that Tzemach Tzedek passed away. Is Nichnas al Zikne had Tzemach Tzedek. He went into his grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek. The Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayeira. He went into the Tzemach Tzedek on Shabbos Vayeira, and doesn't say if it was that day was his birthday or not, but he went in on Shabbos Vayeira. And the Hischol Lifkos, and he started to cry. Vaimrei, when he said to his grandfather, The Rebbe Shab said to his grandfather, Nira Hashem el Avraham Avinu. Why does God reveal himself to Avram? He doesn't reveal himself to me. The Tzemach Tzedek answered him. Famous story. Yehudi Tzaddik, when a Jew who's a Tzaddik, Machlet, makes a commitment, Begil Tishim Etesh at the age of 99 years old, that he has to circumcise himself, then that person's worthy that Hashem should reveal himself to him. So he's saying, he's crying, why doesn't Hashem reveal himself to me? He says, Avram Avinu is worthy. He was a Yid, a Tzaddik. In other times, the Rebbe says there was two nischos, there's two versions of the story. Either the Rebbe said a Yid, any Jew that circumcises at 99, or a Jew at Tzaddik. But here in the edited version of 1992 was Yehudi Tzaddik. This is an edited Sicha. So the Rebbe says, Sipur Zeh Madgish, this story emphasizes the Chura, Vayeira elav Avaya Shayach rak Yehudi Tzaddik. Right? This is the whole point, that this is a story that means the message is not for everyone, anyone who reads the Parsha. So the Rebbe Rashab gets personal. Right? We read the Parsha and we go further. The Rebbe Rashab at 4 or 5 years old gets personal. He says, I'm supposed to live with the message. And here, why doesn't Hashem reveal himself to me? So the Tzemach Tzedek answers that a Yid, a Tzaddik, 99 years old, that agrees to circumcise himself, so then he's worthy to have the revelations of Hashem. Klaimer, afilu tzaddik kaderech haragel, even if he was just a tzaddik, it's still not enough. He's not worthy. He's not shayches. He doesn't have a connection to the idea that God should reveal himself, because it wasn't just that he was a tzaddik. He was a tzaddik who circumcised himself. Here the Rebbe says, the Tzemach Tzedek, again, this is later years. The early years, the Rebbe didn't analyze this story like this. The Rebbe is saying that the Rebbe Rashab was a young boy, but here the Rebbe says it the way it was. That the Rebbe Rashab, even though he was a young boy, he was a tzaddik mibeten. He was a tzaddik even in his young age. So that wouldn't satisfy him by saying that a tzaddik gets the revelations. Kamayim Razal, butzim mekat v'yediyah. That even at a young age he had tremendous knowledge. Kamuvan gami sipur zeh atzmei. I mean, what more proof do you need? That what does a 5-year-old cry about? That why doesn't God reveal himself to him? That it bothered him until he cried. That God doesn't reveal himself to him. As he reveals himself to Avram. It's not enough that he's a tzaddik, but it's a tzaddik that has to circumcise himself. So therefore, the Rebbe says, one must ask, what could we learn from this? If it's not even good enough for you to be a tzaddik, but it has to be a tzaddik who circumcises himself, that seems to be totally disconnected to most people. How could a regular Yid take a lesson from this? Even a person who's not even a tzaddik, never mind, who's not circumcising himself at 99. Even more so, we have stories of people that circumcised themselves later, unfortunately, because of circumstances, whether it be in Russia, what have you. But 99 is mishrabli, it's still an extreme situation. So the Rebbe says, so we can understand, how do we take a message? How do we get a ha'irav from this story? Habir b'mailas hagilu dveir love Hashem. So here the Rebbe is going into what's the Rebbe going to explain. First, you have to understand. See, the Rebbe Rashab was crying. Why doesn't Hashem reveal himself to me? He's not just crying as a child cries. I also want a revelation. You have to. What is this revelation? You have to understand also what this revelation is. So, what is the Maila and the Gila? What is this uniqueness of the revelation of Vayeira Lavavai? God reveals Himself. Shenasai de Mila, that was only able to happen after the circumcision. Communication with Avram we had before. So Rashi, of course, explains that the level of revelation was higher because until he had Mila, he wasn't able to stand. When his body was a contradiction to revelation, therefore he wasn't able to stand when he spoke to Hashem. And here he was able to be who he was because he became tummy, became complete. But the Rebbe, that's what the Rebbe explains. The Rebbe says like this: you do what's known. Shagila de Vayeira Lavai. What is this revelation that we're talking about? That God revealed Himself to Avram at that time. After this, the mitzvah, the commandment that he fulfilled from Hashem of circumcision. Who boy finale is a very high level of revelation. This is another whole level of revelation than the revelations that God revealed himself to Avram before he changed his name and then became Mahul in Parshas Lech Lecha, before he circumcised himself. There's two levels, there's two ways to understand the difference between the revelation in this week's Parsha to any revelation that Avram had in the previous Parsha. Two things. Number one is Aleph, B'dargas Elikus. The level of godliness itself was higher. Vayeira elav Havaya, Gilishem Havaya. That there's revelation of Yud Kevavke. Shlemail Mishem Elikim, that's higher than the level of Elikim. Elikim is concealment. B'dargas Nailas Mishem Havaya, Lemail Mishem Havaya, Shenisker Parshas Lech Lecha. And not just Havaya, because Havaya is mentioned in Lech Lecha. It says Vayeira Mishem Elavram, Lech Lecha. It doesn't say Vayeira Elikim Elavram. But it's a much higher level because we know within Havaya there's many levels. There's Hashem, Kel Racham V'chanan. There's two levels of Hashem in general, and in Shabi particularly, there's many levels within Hashem. So V'darga Nailis B'Shem Havaya, the highest level, a much higher level. L'mayil B'Shem Havaya Shnisker Parshas Lecha. Let's see in 13. He brings in 13 to emphasize the point in footnote number 13. Re'ei Orachaim Reish Parshasenu Orachaim HaKadosh. Right, but Amr Vayeira love Havai, Blei Amr Vayeira Havaya love. The fact that it says Vayeira a love that was revealed to him Havaya, and doesn't say Vayeira Hashem a love, that God revealed himself to him. It's Kavan Lema that Orachaim says it means to tell us Kimashe Gia Meharia a love who Kol Bechinas Havaya Shem HaNichbad. That the Orachaim HaKadosh says that what was revealed a love to him, everything about Havaya. Means the wording should have been Vayeira Hashem Elav, God revealed himself to him. What is Vayeira Elav Havaya? That what was revealed to him, everything about Havaya. That means the pasuk is telling us what kind of revelation of Yud Kei Vavke did he have. He had everything about Yud Kei Vavke, which is obviously more than Lech Lecha. Okay, that's number one. So it means the level of godliness was a higher level. Beis, the second uniqueness is B'yiskalis to Avram, the person who's receiving the revelation, in this case Avram. Vayeira Elav Havaya, that God revealed himself to Avram. There wasn't revelation that overwhelmed him, that Avram became a kind of person that was able to accept that revelation. Means it wasn't above him. He was able to become a vessel to this revelation. He was able to be brought down and to permeate all the way to his essence. Like I said before, that before Avram circumcised himself, he wasn't able to stand when God revealed himself. He had to fall down. And now that he is able to stand, meaning because he himself became a higher level of refinement, and he became a vessel to this revelation. Right? We find also similar to Hagar, right? Hagar, when the angel reveals themselves to Hagar, the Torah tells us that she communicates without any problems. But Manoach, Shimshon's father, gets totally overwhelmed. So you have to be a kli, you have to be a vessel to revelations. Okay, so he continues. And we also see this idea about the great level of revelation, both on the level of godliness and the level of Avram, when it says in the pasuk, that he's standing there in the heat of the day. What's Chaim Hayom? It says, it's brought down, 16, in Rashi, that God took out the sun from its concealment. The nartik we learned about before, that's the Magen, right? Magen Avram. So the nartik covers the sun, the ozone layer, whatever you want to call it, and which is a high level of revelation, which we said that's the revelation of Mashiach. It says God's going to take out the sun from its nartik in the days of Mashiach. This shows that it was a great level of the son of Havaya. Without any Magen, like we learned about in the Torah or this week, of Shem Elokim. And nevertheless, he was able to be settled in that revelation. It was a high level of this sun without any concealment and without any Magen. And God took out the sun means it's not just the sun of the heat, but the sun of the revelation. He was able to be miyushav. We know that one of the expressions of a person who's able to be a kli, a vessel, to be koilet, to accept something, is you're able to sit. You don't get overwhelmed. You don't start moving. When you sit, you're able to take it in a calm way. So Avram was miyushav when he was even to this high level of the revelation. Okay, we still didn't answer the question. We're first explaining what the the initial question, what we could learn from this. But first we have to understand what this is. So the Rebbe continues. And how is it that A, that the level of revelation, and B, that Avram was able to accept the revelation, was all accomplished only after he circumcised himself. If he should be mitzvah smila yesh basic, because within the mitzvah itself there's these two ideas, meaning there's the revelation and then there's the ability to be a vessel. Mitzvah smila, the Rebbe says, the commandment of circumcision, is higher than most mitzvahs of the Torah, all of the mitzvahs of the Torah. We know that the Torah itself was only three brises, three covenants was on Torah. Val Mila, and that's why the Gemara goes into why you have to mention Mila in Parshas Hamazon. Val Mila and on the Mila and circumcision, there's 13 covenants, brises. Not only that, it's the only mitzvah. It's the only mitzvah that is actually on the body itself. Everything, any other mitzvah that we do is with the body, but not on the body. That means that the body doesn't change, right? We put on tefillin, we light Shabbos candles, we learn Torah, which is our mind, which is an internal organ of the body, but still it's used for Torah. But that there's actually a part of the body that comes part of the mitzvah. There's nothing like Mila. This is my covenant in your flesh forever. It represents the connection to Hashem, which is beyond reason. Why? Because it's not about your mind. It's not about you doing something. It's just how you change your body. Just Pashat reveals itself in the form of the person. 86 going 87. And the Rebbe says it's even more than that. That through mitzvah smila, that it doesn't just bring holiness down to the body, but to the world as well. The Rebbe says in the footnote number 23, to emphasize this point, that's why it tells us where Avram was when God revealed himself. Why does it matter that it says Vayeira lavavai be'eleinei mamre? What's the difference eleinei mamre? So Rashi tells us because he went to Mamre to ask him if he should do the bris. Why does Rashi have to say that? Because why does the pasuk have to tell us where he was? But in Abi Panemius, according to the internal, what's that? Why does that help us in the story that where he was? So the point is because it affects where he was. It affected the world. Ki bris mila keshura in bris haaretz, because we know that the bris mila is connected to the covenant of the land. How am I going to make sure? How did God cement in, so to say, the commitment to Eretz Yisrael for the Jewish people is with the bris mila. Means that the Eretz Canaan, Shiti Eretz Yisrael, that the ability a Yid has to turn Eretz Canaan into Eretz Yisrael is the power of the bris. That's why we mention in Birchas Haaretz the bris, right? That's why it says, we have to mention in Birchas Haaretz, the second blessing of the benching, which is the bracha on the land, we mention bris because it's connected. So what's the power that we have to turn the Eretz Canaan into Eretz Yisrael? Is through the bris. Eretz Shiratza Lasis Ritzayin Kaina. What's the idea of Eretz Yisrael? To turn it into land that the land itself wants to do the will of the Creator. The land itself becomes a dwelling place for Hashem. The Rebbe says, hold on a second. I just want to know where the answer is going to be. So if we have to, we could skip to the answer. Right. Right. So we have to go. If we have to, we'll skip to page 89. Ches. But let's continue a little further here. In another way to look at this in a little deeper, the Rebbe says like this: these two ideas of Mila. One is that it's in your body. That it's the highest level of a mitzvah because it's 13 brises and it goes all the way down to your body. So the two ideas. The darga is darga nihilus b'likus, the highest level of likus, that it has 13 covenants. The mile mekol mitzvah Torah, v'hamshachos v'iskalus lamata, and it comes down all the way to the body and through the body into the land. The basar aguf b'gash misaylam. Salim v'kshurim zeh b'zeh. There's the same idea always we say that the higher something is, the lower it goes, right? Even shadafka, the amshach v'skalos lamata mata nimshachas v'skalos targanas v'yeser. That dafka, when you're doing something that goes really low, you have to draw energy from the highest places. Vazbar b'zeh. Apia, you do it based on what's known. Shetachas abrias kula himipnei humipnei shnishav kadosh baruch hu liis lo yisbarach dir b'tachtein. The whole point of creation was that God wanted a dwelling place in this earth. Kalaimar, meaning to say, Leirak shegile likus nimshach b'chol seder shtashas ad shenimshach u'miskale gam tachtenim. Here the Rebbe is making a very important point. It wasn't that God had a desire that there should be revelations in the world of Atzilus, and there should be revelations in the world of Bria, and there should be revelations in the world of Yetzirah, and also it should go as far as our world. No, El Adrab, on the contrary. His whole motivation, he didn't care really about Atzilus, and he didn't care about Bria, and he didn't care about Yetzirah. The whole motivation, as far as the motivation goes, is here. It's all about here. And of course, for it to be here, it has to go there too. But that the motivation wasn't that it should go also here. The motivation is that it should dafka be here. This that there's revelations in the higher world. That's all just revelations. That there's more revelations in the world of Atzilus. You see godliness, but where do you see the essence of God? Because the essence is where His focus is in this world. That's where He wants to be. He wants to be here. In our world, with all its complications, with all its darkness, with all the situations, there should be a revelation of godliness in this essence. That's what motivated Him. Again, to be more revealed in the world of Atzilus, okay. But that He wouldn't create the world for that. As it says, Shlomo Melech said when he dedicated the Beis Hamikdash, he says, "Hina Shemaim v'Shmei Shemaim leichal kulchucha af yebayis hazeh." So it's learned that Shlomo Melech is asking a question, that if God can't be contained in the higher worlds, how is He going to be contained in this house? But here the Rebbe says b'nichusa. He wasn't saying it in a question. He was saying it as a matter of fact. B'nichusa means as a statement. That even though God can't be contained in the higher worlds, He can be contained here, because this is where the kavan is. 29, what's the marker for that? Rebbe has the Sicha chelik chafal, that there he talks about that Shlomo Melech was saying it not in a question, but b'nichusa, as a statement. Sheshmaim v'shmei shemaim, that the heavens, the higher worlds, there you can have a revelation of the essence. That's why the Garden of Eden is not the essence, and it's a manifestation. That's why we say it's better to be in this world than any time in the world to come, because the world to come is only Giluyim. Here's Atzmos, here's the essence. Is that only here in the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamikdash it's not just the Beis Hamikdash, the physical Beis Hamikdash in this world. From there, the rest of the essence goes out to the rest of the world. The whole world becomes. That's just the entry point. The Beis Hamikdash is the entry point, but the entry point is that the whole world should become a dir of Hashem. Like you do, as is known, it's known that where do we get the real revelation of the Yesh Amiti, of the real something, which is godliness, is in the entity that thinks there's something. Means the chiddush is not that there's a bittul of the higher worlds, but that there's yesh that starts off to think that it's something, and that you reveal that be'etzim, in essence, it's a godliness. That's the big chiddush. Then the yesh hametzius of the world, there you reveal the yesh amiti, the true something of godliness. In this case, we're talking about the godliness, the essence of Hashem, from the Creator, that His whole being is from Himself. There's nothing before Hashem. Only Hashem can create something from nothing. Something that came from nothing, absolutely nothingness. Without any reason, before this thing came into existence. Based on understanding that's why Dafka, the highest level, is revealed in Basar, and through the Basar means in our flesh, the Bris Milah, and through the Bris Milah into the world, and to make Eretz Yisrael into Eretz Canaan. Which obviously the Rebbe is probably going with what he spoke the week before, which we learned last week, that the point of it is Machta Eretz Yisrael, make the whole world Eretz Yisrael. This idea that we need revelations of Vayeira, which is the dargest nas, but the kushim is gav chederes v'pnimis, that the highest level should come, and not just to be revealed, but Avim could accept the revelation. You could internalize it. So this, the Rebbe is saying over here, now he's going to the answer. That what is the Rebbe Shab wanted to know why he doesn't see the revelation. So now when we understand what the revelation is, that something, the highest of powers, comes into the lowest of points, even into the body of the flesh of a human being, of a yid. So now we understand that this idea is by every Jew, because every Jew has a bris milah. Yes, we learned before.
Except for half of the Jewish people.
No, we spoke about this last week, that the Gemara says that women are commanded molidami. They're considered circumcised halachically. That's why they're allowed to eat.
But I'm saying we don't get a milah. Like we don't have whatever.
Maybe you don't have it much. All right. It has to be discussed. But it's considered circumcised. And I was just seeing in 33 if he mentions about that. It doesn't. Okay. When it comes to circumcision, it says, Va'ata esprisi Hishma. I want you to keep my covenant for generations. This idea of circumcision on the flesh, this happens to all generations, not just to Avram. That we're connected to the concept of circumcision even before circumcision. A person who says, that a person says that so it says that even that if a person says koinim, I make a vow that I'm not going to have anything to do with circumcised people, right? So that person is not allowed to have even to do with people that haven't yet been circumcised by the Jewish people. So the Gemara says even though that they're not circumcised yet, they're considered an orel, but they're as if they, because command them malidami, as if they're going to be circumcised. And like he says, yeah, here you go, Sharna, this is for you. It's just the same things by a woman. The woman's considered to be circumcised. So just like the halacha is that a person who says, I don't have to do with any people circumcised, right? A person gets angry, I don't know, whatever motivates a person to make such a statement. I don't have anything to do with circumcised people. And then included in that would be, let's say, a baby that hasn't been circumcised yet, or a person for some whatever reason who hasn't been circumcised yet. So you would think, well, that person's not circumcised. He's allowed to, he keeps his vow, or she keeps her vow by having to do with this person because they're not circumcised. The Gemara says no. If it's a Jewish person, you can't have anything to do with them. And same thing about a woman, you can't have to do with her. Because command them alidam, even if they don't technically they didn't do it yet by the man, then we consider them to be circumcised already because they're going to eventually do it. So if everyone is considered circumcised, and specifically if you've been circumcised, so then you have to have the benefit of the circumcision, which is the Vayeira love of Hashem, the revelation of Hashem, and that highest level. Knisas nefesh zu hakadusha mitzvus mila. You know, that's brought down. The Alter Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch Adam Razaken. That what does it mean that the Alter Rebbe writes in Shulchan Aruch that when does the soul enter the person, like it's one of its final steps, is by the bris, is because that's the revelation of Vayeira love Hashem. You're getting the revelation within you. Nefesh hakadusha, nefesh alikis, your holy godly soul. He daginailis b'likus is the highest level of godliness. Chelik alikaim mal mamash, a portion of God. And if it's the essence of God, there's no difference if it's a little bit of the essence or the whole essence. Like the Alter, like the Tzemach said, like the Baal Shem Tov says, if you touch essence, you're touching everything. And the nefesh alikis is the essence of godliness. And he says, he points out Mediyak Lashon Taifis Shetfisa Shaychas Likinyan Shayadi Nase Balabayis Al Davar Nikna. When you hold something, it's part of holding is one of the ways of acquiring something by Mashicha or picking up, right? So then you become a koine, you become a person that owns, you become a balabas, you become the owner of that item, that article. That when it says that when you're toifis in alikus, it's not just an expression. You're acquiring godliness. You become a balabas in godliness. And when does this soul come part of the goof of the person? Is by the bris. That seemingly the body looks no different than anyone's body, than even the Gentiles. That not only does the body get connected to the godly soul, that it becomes its true vitality is the godly soul, even though it's functioning like we know from Chassidus through the Nefesh Bahamis, but it becomes primarily a vessel to the godly soul. Guf Kaddish. Every body of a Yid is holy. All those nevachless people that still didn't get buried. So every body of a Jew is holy, not just the person, but the guf is holy. V'nikra Adam, and the body is called a man. Atam Karim Adam, Hashem Adam Elyon, like Hashem. V'inyan zeh hagili de Vayeira lav Avaya b'knisas nefesh akdusha. This revelation that happens in the moment of the bris, b'mitzvah smila, v'spate b'poel b'chol prati nyanim shachai Adam gabi katnusei ubahadugmas lezeh. That he says like this, that this idea that it penetrates a person and becomes who the person is, it starts from a young age, and he gives an example. First thing is the mo'or, the luminary of the light of the soul, and therefore even a child knows the concept of a God, without understanding the technicalities, the complications of it. Even more than that, the Rebbe says, the simplicity of the knowledge of God by children, in a sense, has an elevated level. Like it's the famous statement that Tzemach Tzedek brings it down. I'd like to pray like the child prays, right? The child has the simplicity. He says, this is the Shalas HaTruvos, the Rivash writes this, and Tzemach Tzedek brings it down in Sefer Mitzvahs. Sherish Mitzvah Satila. This is based on the Shalas HaTruvos of the Rivash. Rivash was, Rivash, if I'm not mistaken, was the Rebbe of the Rambam. So Shekivon she'eni shaykh lahavona ba'asaga b'dyana spheros. He doesn't know all the levels of God in the spheros and in this level, that level of the world of Atzilus. B'chinas hagiluyim. Azay tefillah sh'lahilim husav atzmus yisparach mamash. The child doesn't know any levels. The child, you say, ask God. He's that's it. God is very simple. You ask God, God provides. I mean, there's no levels after each chesed and gvura and this and that. The child. So the Rivash says, I want to daven al das ze'atinik, in the simplicity of a child. Not only does the child have a simple understanding of Hashem in a spiritual way, tefillah like HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a way of prayer. When it comes to eating and drinking, right away. You know that they have to, it's not just when they daven, that you have to make a bracha, they make a bracha. You have to make a benching, they make a benching. A bracha shechiyuv min Torah, the brachas that we're obligated to do according to the Torah. It's very simple to a child. It's not getting all complicated. He's sitting, he's going to bring down the mazon and the bread and the koach halaki. God gave him food, he says thank you. It's very simple. It's not complicated. The Gemara tells us about Abai and Rava. They sat next to their teacher and uncle Rabba, and he asked them, who are you blessing to? He asked the Abai and Rava. To God. Where's God? He's saying, if you're thanking God, where's God? Said Rava, Talala. Abai nafik lebra achuya klap ishmaya. If I'm not mistaken, Rava mentioned achuya lishmei talala and Abai nafik levra achuya klap ishmaya. I forget which one of them pointed to. Just heard this actually from Rabbi Wein. To heaven, and one I think pointed to his heart. Let's see, continue. But he said, This is what it means. At a young age, there's simplicity of a person who has the level of godliness. But basically, Abai and Rava have to check the Gemara. Abai and Rava, it's a Gemara in Brachas. Abai and Rava, they were children, and it was simple. When Rabbi asked them, "Where's God?" They pointed up. I mean, God is in heaven. That's it. I mean, it's not complicated. Not only about food that becomes part of their body, also when it comes to art items in their home. for a child. Like for instance, a mezuzah. We know, especially uniqueness and preciousness that a mezuzah has to children specifically. That you see by children, by Jewish children, how even at a young age they have the nature to kiss the mezuzah. Not just once, a few times during the day. But specifically in the morning when the kid wakes up and goes to school, it goes out of the house, you see the kid kiss them as the child, the boy or girl kiss them as take it as soon as they wake up, we know the custom also that children kiss them before they go to sleep. And we have it by the door and the entrances of all the doors of the house and of the bedrooms. It's coming to signify that all the things that are in the house and in the room, in the whole house, the child connects it. The mezuzah is by the door, the entry point of the room. And therefore the child, again, this is the simple belief of a child in Hashem. When the child has a siddur, to have a charity box, these are all things that the Rebbe wanted every child to have in their home. Every kid should have a chumash and a siddur in their home. The kupet tzedakah hashayches len shavet tzedakah pushka. Shaydei nasa by school by Torah becomes a house of Torah, and tefillah gemilas chasadim and prayer and good deeds means Torah is the learn, is the dav, is the sefer, tefillah is the siddur, and the gemilas chasadim is the tzedakah. Me'im v'dukas beis hamikdash k'mash kasav asli mikdash v'shechanti b'seichem v'seichel ein eber b'seichem v'seichel echad achas v'nafshi pnimi v'beis prati. God wants to be in everyone's soul, in everyone's bedroom, in everyone's house. So when a child has the mezuzah and has the siddur and the chumash and the tzedakah box in their room, that breaks their little room into a beis hamikdash. And from the house, the whole it becomes their space in the world. That's the entry and exit point of the house. Right before you go outside. It's a message to the children. That now when they go outside, God should watch you. When you come in and you go out, when you're connected to the mezuzah, when you touch the mezuzah and you're going into the world and out of the world, back into your home, you touch the mezuzah and you remember the love of Hashem. You know there's nothing that's forever besides Hashem. And you penetrate that idea into your service of Hashem and in your space in the world. Like I said before, the Rebbe means to make the whole world Eretz Yisrael. Might do as it's known, Asakan make chutzlar Eretz Yisrael. What do you mean Eretz Yisrael? Make it godly and holy. They see that Torah, the whole world is connected to Torah and Judaism. Yisrael is the Torah because Yisrael means that we are part of Torah. To make a resting place for Hashem. So what's the idea of the question? Let's just see outside. So the Rebbe's answer, I think, is that the point isn't that what the Rebbe Rashab was crying was that I get it, this all. I get that every yid has a bris and every yid could be Yashvus and permeate godliness. That my room has a mezuzah, my room has a tzedakah pushka. Where I come and I go out, I make the whole world Eretz Yisrael. I'm empowered to transform the world and make a dir b'tachtainim. But why don't I see it? Means Avram Avinu was able to see it. Why don't I see what I'm doing? Why I go out in the world sometimes I still see darkness? Why when I go out to the world sometimes I still see the pushback? Why can't I see what's going on? And that's why he was crying. Not that it's that we don't have a connection to it. And that's what the Tzemach Tzedek answered him, that you have to be on a madrega to see it. But it doesn't mean you don't have it. So the lesson is that we have it. And the crying is, why don't we see it? And maybe Zoichet to see it and all the darkness should mamish go away. And we shouldn't have any darkness in the world, and we should permeate the world with godliness and Torah mitzvahs and the coming of Mashiach B'Karim. A lot of Tov, everyone.
Amen.
Thank you.